Hello everyone, it's me Luthfia. Today we are going to learn about creating an interactive classroom. The topics that we are going to learn are exploring interaction, initiating interaction, and group work. Let's start with exploring interaction. Do you know what is interaction? Interaction is the collaborative exchange of thoughts, feelings, or ideas between two or more people. There are some principles of interaction. First, interaction is enhanced by automaticity. Second, interaction requires the use of self-regulated strategies. The third, interaction requires the students to invest in the learning process. The fourth, the cultural component of interactive speech and writing require that interlocutors. Interactive teacher. So what is interactive teacher? An interactive teacher is by definition one who is fully aware of the group dynamics of a classroom. There are some roles of the teacher in the classroom. For example, teacher as controller, teacher as director, teacher as manager, teacher as a facilitator, and teacher as resource. Interactive student. What are the characteristics of interactive students? There are some characteristics of interactive students. The first, take initiative. The second, seek information. The third, clarify when there is confusion or misunderstanding. The fourth, summarize to put contribution into a pattern. Let's move to the second topic, initiating interaction, especially questioning strategies. How do the teacher questions stimulate interaction? The teacher question gives students the impetus and opportunity to produce language comfortably without having to risk initiating language themselves. Teacher question can serve to initiate a chain reaction of the students' interaction. Teacher question give instructor immediate feedback about student comprehension. Teacher question provides students with opportunities to find out what they think by hearing what they say. There are two types of question, display question and referential question. What is the difference? So display question is a question that attempts to elicit information already known by the teacher. Display questions are useful to elicit certain desired grammatical, phonological, or discourse pattern from a student. For example, the teacher asks a question to the student, is it cloudy outside? And on the other hand, referential questions are questions that request information not known by the questioner. Referential questions in which the teacher can engage students with more communicative authenticity are much more likely to be genuinely meaningful. This kind of question involves real transfer of information and is in keeping with the tenets of communicative language learning. There are some categories of referential question. The first is knowledge question. Knowledge questions is eliciting factual answers, testing, recall, and recognition of information. For example, the teacher asks the student, define blah 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 or tell blah 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 and etc. The second category is comprehension question. In comprehension question, the students should interpret and extrapolating. The example of the question are, state in your own words, what do you think of blah blah blah, or explain about blah blah blah, something like that. The next categories of referential question is application question. In application question, the students are applying information heard or read to new situation. For example, the teacher can ask, demonstrate how to make coffee or something, or use the data solve, illustrate how to blah blah blah. show how to blah 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 and etc. The next category is inference question. In inference question, the students are forming conclusions that are not directly stated in instructional material. For example, what did blah 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 mean by, or what conclusion can you draw from the picture or something like that. The next categories of referential question is analysis question. In analysis question, the students breaking down into parts relating part to the whole. For example, the teacher can ask the student to distinguish or classify, categorize, differentiate, and etc. The next category is evaluation question. In evaluation question, the students are making a judgment of good and bad, right or wrong according to some set of criteria and stating why. For example, the teacher can ask the student to evaluate or which one is more important, which do you think is more appropriate, and etc. Questions to avoid. In the teaching and learning process, not all of kinds of questions can be asked to the student. There are some questions that the teacher should avoid. First, too many rhetorical questions that students think you want them to answer, then get confused when you supply the answer. The second, vague questions that are worded in abstract or ambiguous language. The third, questions stated in language that is too long, too complex, or too wordy for oral comprehension. The fourth, random questions that don't fall into a logical, well-planned sequence, disrupting student thought pattern. And then how to promote interaction in the classroom? There are some ways. The first, designing pair work and group work. The second, giving comment or direction to the students. The third, using organizational language. The fourth, reacting to the students. For example, praising the student or giving reinforcement to the students. The fifth, responding genuinely to the students' initiated question. The sixth, encouraging students to develop their own strategies. Let's move to the last topic, that is group work. There are some myths about group work. The first, teacher is no longer in control of the class. It can caused by some factors. Those are, the institution requires a traditional class methodology. The second, in the cultural context, effective teaching is believed to be students quietly working in orderly fashion, speaking only when spoken to by the teacher. The third, large classes make the managing of many small groups problematic. The fourth, discipline is a major issue. The sixth, you are an L2 speaker yourself with someone low confidence in your own ability in the L2. The second myth is students will use their native language. So this can be caused by some condition. Stress, the importance of practice in the L2, appeal to various motivational factors affecting them so that they can see some real uses for English in their own life. Your own overt display of enthusiasm will help to set a tone for enjoyment. Remind your student of the security offered by the smaller groups. The third myth is students' error will be reinforced in a small group. Another group work myth is the fear of the students that will reinforce each other's error and the teachers will not get a chance to correct them. Next myth is some learners prefer to work alone. When the teacher noticed that some of the learners prefer to work alone in a group work, they, they have responsibility to help the student to see that language learning is not a skill where you can simply phone up on rules and words in isolation. Language is for communicating with people, and the more they engage in such face-to-face communication, the more their overall communicative competence will improve. There are some advantages of group work. The first, group work generates interactive language. Group work helps to solve the problem of classes that are too large to offer many opportunities to speak by increasing individual practice time. The second, group work offers an embracing effective climate. Shy students become focal participants in the process of forming a community of practice pursuing common goals. The sheer friendliness of a small group helps learners to feel more secure and therefore more capable of participating. Next, group work promotes learner responsibility and autonomy. Students are developing the kind of autonomy they might not otherwise experience in exclusively whole class work. And then how to implement group work in our classroom. First, classroom language. One of the first considerations in implementing group work is to ascertain that your students have an appropriate command of the classroom language which, with which to carry out the group tasks that you have in mind. Pair work versus group work. There are some activity in pair work or group work. Those are practicing dialogue or doing drills with a partner, simple question and answer exercise, checking written work with each other, preparation for merging with a larger group, and etc. There are also some activities in pair work and group work, include games, roleplay, drama, project, interview, brainstorming, jigsaw, and problem solving. There are some rules of implementing group work in the classroom. The first, introduce the technique. The introduction may simply be a brief explanation. The second, justify the use of small groups for the technique. If you think your students have any doubt about the significance of the upcoming tasks, then tell them explicitly why the small group is important for accomplishing the tasks. The next rule is model the technique. After the student get into their group, you might, for example, show them for transportation schedule. Next, give explicit detailed instruction and monitor the students. That's all about today's material. If you have any comment or question, you can write it in the comment section below. See you in the next video. Goodbye.